Namo Buddhaya. The largest sutra on perfect wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram, the chapter 21st. Subhuti the elder. The going forth to the knowledge of all modes. Shariputra. How Subhuti does a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom investigate these dharmas? What is a Bodhisattva? What perfect wisdom? What do they investigate in? Subhuti. You ask, what is a bodhisattva? Just enlightenment is his substance, therefore is he called a bodhisattva. But though that enlightenment allows him to know the modes of all dharmas, he doesn't settle down in them. The modes of which dharmas does he know? He knows the modes of form, etc., to Buddhadharmas, but he doesn't settle down in them. Shariputra. What are the modes of all dharmas? Subhuti. Those modes, those characteristics, those signs by which form, etc., inner and outer dharmas, conditioned and unconditioned dharmas are made known. Those are called the modes of all dharmas. Again, Shariputra, you ask, what is perfect wisdom? She has abstained, she has caused to abstain. That is why she is called perfect wisdom. From what has she abstained? From what has she caused others to abstain? From the skandhas, sense fields, and elements, from conditioned production, from the perfections, and the 20 kinds of emptiness, the applications of mindfulness, etc., from the Buddhadharmas and all knowledge. Again, Shariputra, you ask, what is the investigating? Here, a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom investigates form, etc., is not permanent or impermanent, not at ease or ill, etc., to not isolated or unisolated. It is thus that a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom investigates all these dharmas. Shariputra. For what reason, Subhuti, do you say that the non-production of form, etc., is not form, etc.? Subhuti. Form, etc., is empty of form, etc., and the emptiness is neither form, etc., nor production. In this way, the non-production of form, etc., is not what form, etc., is. Shariputra, for what reason, Subhuti, do you say that the passing away of form, etc., is not form, etc.? Subhuti, because these that passing away and that form, etc., and the fact of their being undivided, all these dharmas are neither conjoined nor disjoined. They are immaterial, undefinable, non-resistant, with one single mark only, with no mark. Shariputra, for what reason, Subhuti, do you say that inasmuch as one calls anything form, etc., one makes account of what is non-dual? Subhuti, because non-production is not one thing and form, etc., another. The very non-production is form, etc. The very form, etc., is non-production. Non-production. At the time, O Lord, when a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom investigates those dharmas, at that time he reviews the non-production of form, etc., to the Buddhadharmas on account of their absolute purity. Shariputra. As I understand the meaning of the Venerable Subhuti's teaching, everything from form to the Buddhadharmas is non-production. But if that is so, then surely a disciple has already attained the enlightenment of a disciple. One who follows the career of a particular Buddha has already attained the enlightenment of a particular Buddha, and a Bodhisattva has already attained the knowledge of all modes. There will then be no distinction of 5 places of rebirth. If all dharmas are non-production, a Bodhisattva has already attained the 5-fold enlightenment. For that purpose should the stream winner develop the path for the sake of forsaking the 3 fetters, or the one's returner for the sake of attenuating greed, hate, and delusion, or the never returner for the sake of forsaking the 5 lower fetters, or the arhat for the sake of forsaking the 5 higher fetters, or those who belong to the vehicle of the particular Buddhas for the sake of the attainment of the enlightenment of a particular Buddha. For what reason does the Bodhisattva go on the difficult pilgrimage and experience all the suffering which he is said to undergo for the sake of beings? For what reason has the Tathagata known full enlightenment and turned the wheel of Dharma? Subhuti. I do not wish or look for the attainment of an unproduced Dharma or for reunion with one. I do not look for the stream winnership nor of non-production, or for the fruit of a strong winner in non-production. I do not, on the part of non-production, wish or look for any of the spiritual attainments up to the enlightenment of a particular Buddha and particular Buddhahood. I do not look for a Bodhisattva who has gone on the difficult pilgrimage. In any case, a Bodhisattva doesn't course in the perfection of difficulties. And why? Because one who has generated in himself the notion of difficulties is unable to work the will of countless beings. On the contrary, he forms the notion that all beings are like his parents and children, and they are like himself, and then he is able to work the will of countless beings. He also thinks that just as one speaks of a self, and yet absolutely a self is unproduced, so also all inner and outer dharmas are unproduced. If he forms such a notion, then he will not have a notion of difficulties. And why? Because bodhisattvas will in each and every way not produce any dharma or apprehend one. I do not look in non-production of a Tathagata, not for his turning of the will of dharma, nor do I look for an unproduced attainment which is being attained by an unproduced dharma. Shariputra. Is then an unproduced attainment attained through an unproduced dharma or through a produced dharma? Subhuti. I do not look for an unproduced attainment which is being attained through an unproduced dharma, nor for a produced attainment which is being attained through an unproduced dharma. Shariputra. Do you look for an attainment by an unproduced or by a produced dharma? Subhuti. I do not look for either. Shariputra. Is there then no attainment? Is there no reunion? Subhuti. There is attainment, there is reunion, but not in ultimate reality. This is through worldly convention and expressions that attainment and reunion are conceived, and stream winners and Strata Buddhas are conceived. But in ultimate reality, there is none of all this. Shariputra. Is it intelligible to talk of an unproduced dharma? Subhuti. As you say, Shariputra, it is intelligible to talk of an unproduced dharma and likewise of non-production. Why? Because the unproduced dharma, the intelligibility, the talking, and the non-genesis, all these dharmas are neither conjoined nor disjoined. They are immaterial and definable and non-resistant with one mark only, no mark. Shariputra. The talking also is in non-production, and so is the intelligibility, and so is the dharma and then produced, and are those dharmas about which one can talk intelligibly. Subhuti. So it is Shariputra, and why? Because everything from form to the knowledge of almost is non-production. Shariputra. So it is, moreover, as attainment and reunion take place only by way of worldly conventional expressions, thus also the differentiation of the five destinies take place only by way of worldly conventional expression and not in ultimate reality. Subhuti. So it is Shariputra, and why? Because in ultimate reality there is no karma or karma result, no production or stopping, no defilement or purification. Shariputra. Furthermore, Subhuti, is an unproduced dharma produced, or is a produced dharma produced? Subhuti. I do not look for the production of a produced dharma, and I also do not look for the production of an unproduced dharma. Shariputra. Of which unproduced dharma do you not look for the sake for the production? Subhuti. I do not wish for the production which is empty of own being of the unproduced dharma of form, etc. to Buddhadharmas. I do not wish them for the production of enlightenment which is unproduced and empty of own being. Shariputra. And again, Subhuti, is production or non-production produced? Subhuti. Neither. And why? Because those two dharmas, production and non-production, are neither conjoined nor disjoined. They are immaterial, indefinable, non-resistant, with one mark only, with no mark. In this way, neither production nor non-production is produced. Talk is therefore non-production, and so is intelligible speech. And so, in a dharma, and also those dharmas unproduced, concerning which one can talk intelligibly. Shariputra. In the first rank of the preachers of Dharma should the Venerable Subhuti be placed. And why? For from whatever angle he may be questioned, he always finds a way out. No lean on anything. Subhuti. This is the true nature of the Tathagata's disciples, that they do not lean on all dharmas. From whatever angle they may be questioned, they always find a way out. And why? Because no dharma even leans on another. Shariputra. In what way do all dharmas not lean on anything? Subhuti. Form, etc., is empty in its essential original nature. It is not inwardly supported, nor outwardly supported, it cannot be apprehended anywhere between both. In this manner, all dharmas do not lean on anything on account of the emptiness of their essential original nature. It is thus that the Bodhisattva who courses in the six perfections should fully cleanse all dharmas from form to the knowledge of all modes, going forth on the path Shariputra. How does a Bodhisattva who courses in the six perfections cleanse the path to enlightenment? Subhuti. There is a worldly perfection of given, and there is a supramundal perfection of given. Shariputra. What is the worldly and what the supramundal perfection of given? The worldly perfection of given. Subhuti. This is the worldly perfection of given. Here a Bodhisattva gives, and gives liberally to recluses, Brahmins, the poor, mendicants, travelers, and beggars. He gives food to those who are hungry, and to those who desire them he gives drinks, vehicles, garments, perfumes, garlands, ornaments, flowers, incense, aromatic powders, homes, asylum, shelter, the requirements of life, services, longings, and medicines. Likewise, he gives his sons, daughters, and five kingdoms, as well as his hand, limbs, flesh, blood, and marrow to those who desire them. But he renounces all that while leaning on something. It occurs to him, I give that one receives. This is the gift. I renounce all that I have without any niggardliness. I act as the Buddha commands. I practice the perfection of giving. I having made this gift into the common property of all beings, dedicated to the supreme enlightenment, and that without basing myself on anything. By means of this gift and its fruit, may all beings in this very life be at their ease, and may they without any further clinging enter the final nirvana. Tied by three ties, he gives a gift. Which three? The notion of self, the notion of others, the notion of a gift. To give a gift tied by these three ties, that is called the worldly perfection of giving, and it is called worldly because one doesn't swear away from the world, doesn't depart from it, doesn't pass beyond it. The supramental perfection of giving. The supramental perfection of giving, on the other hand, consists in the threefold purity. What is the threefold purity? Here a Bodhisattva gives a gift, and he does not apprehend a self, a recipient, or a gift. Also no reward of his given. He surrenders that gift to all beings, but does not apprehend those beings or himself either. And although he dedicates the gift to the supreme enlightenment, he doesn't apprehend any enlightenment. This is called the supreme perfection of giving. And it is called supreme because one swears away from the world, departs from it, passes beyond it. In the same way, should the difference between the worldly and the supreme perfections of morality, passion, vigor, and concentration be understood? Shariputra. What is the worldly and what is the supreme perfection of wisdom? The worldly perfection of wisdom. Subhuti. This is the worldly perfection of wisdom. Here a Bodhisattva gives a gift leaning on the basis. He thinks that I should suppress all niggardly thought in myself, leaning on the notion of self-being and gift. He renounces all that he has, all inner and outer things appropriated and unappropriated, and there is nothing that he does not renounce. And that wholesome root which results from this act of renunciation, he dedicates to the supreme enlightenment after he has made it common to all beings, but leaning on a basis. He tends morality and is established in the ascetic practices, while leaning on the body, speech, and thought as a basis, while he tends those 10 ways of wholesome action, leaning on the views of self, being, and wholesomeness. He dedicates those moralities made common to all beings to an enlightenment which he has apprehended, and throughout basing himself on something. He exalts not himself nor depreciates others, and endures being ill treated by all, while leaning on the views of self, being, and passions. That wholesomeness he dedicates to the supreme enlightenment after he has made it common to all beings, but leaning on a basis. He exerts vigor while apprehending body, thought, the equipment, the merit, the equipment with merit, the equipment with cognition, a self, and enlightenment, and he fancies himself for that exertion in vigor. Having made that merit common to all beings, he dedicates it to the supreme enlightenment while basing himself on something. He develops friendliness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and impartiality. He enters into the trances and attainment and again emerges from them, but he derives release from them and in consequence fancies himself for them. He makes the wholesome rules common to all beings and dedicates them to enlightenment, but always having some basis in view. He develops emptiness and he apprehends that everything from form to the enlightenment of a Buddha is empty, always being basing himself on something. Those wholesome rules he makes common to all beings and dedicates them to the supreme enlightenment, but by way of assuming a basis. He confesses all the evil he has done by way of assuming a basis and rejoices at his own merit and that of others. For his own sake and that of others, he entreats the Buddhas for instruction, but while basing himself on something without skill and means, he dedicates the merit from his confession, rejoicing and entreaty to all knowledge, having first made in common to all beings. This is called the worldly perfection of wisdom, the supramental perfection of wisdom. What, on the other hand, is the supramental perfection of wisdom? Through his non-apprehension of self-being's gift or enlightenment, and through the threefold purity, he cleanses the perfection of given for enlightenment. Through his non-apprehension of self-being morality or enlightenment, he cleanses the perfection of morality for enlightenment, and likewise the perfection of patience by the non-apprehension of self-being endurance and enlightenment, the perfection of vigor by the non-apprehension of self-physical and mental vigor, merit and cognition and enlightenment, the perfection of concentration by the non-apprehension of self-beings, trances and concentrations and attainments and enlightenment, the perfection of wisdom by the non-apprehension of self-beings, all dharmas and enlightenment. He dedicates all wholesome rules to the supreme enlightenment by means of a dedication which is undifferentiated, supreme, equal to the unequal, unthinkable, uncomparable, and immeasurable, immeasureless. This is called the supramental perfection of wisdom. Conclusion. Shariputra. What is the Bodhisattva's path to enlightenment? Subhuti. The 4 applications of mindfulness and so on, all the 21 practices described before. Shariputra. On which perfection is that the doing? Subhuti. Of the perfection of wisdom, for the perfection of wisdom is the genetrix and recipient of all wholesome dharmas, be they the dharmas or disciples, particular Buddhas, bodhisattvas or Buddhas. After training in perfect wisdom, the Tathagatas of the past have known full enlightenment. The Tathagatas of the future will know full enlightenment after training in perfect wisdom. And those Tathagatas who, at present in the world and the 10 directions, stand, hold, and maintain themselves and demonstrate Dharma, all these also have known full enlightenment after training in just this perfection of wisdom. When this perfection of wisdom is being taught, a bodhisattva is not perplexed or stupefied. Then one should know that he dwells in this dwelling and that he is not lacking in this attention, in the attention which doesn't abandon all beings in order to protect them, and in the attention of the great compassion. Shariputra. So it is, as you say, such a bodhisattva dwells in this dwelling and is not lacking in this attention. This being so, Venerable Subhuti, all beings must already be bodhisattvas. And why? Because all beings are not lacking in attention. Subhuti. Well said, Shariputra, and yet I must reprove you, for the Venerable Shariputra has grasped the matter correctly only as far as the words are concerned. And why? One should understand that the non-beingness of attention results from that own beings, that the emptiness of attention, its lack of own being, and its isolatedness result from the emptiness of beings. Their lack of own being, their isolatedness, and acts of attention do not undergo the process which leads to enlightenment in the same way in which beings do not undergo the process. Similarly, one should understand that the non-beingness, emptiness, etc. of attentions results from non-beingness, emptiness, etc. of form, etc. It is by this method that the Bodhisattva, great being, should be known as not lacking in this dwelling and in this kind of attention, which is the attention of the great compassion. The Lord, well said, Subhuti, well said. The perfection of wisdom of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, should be explained as you have through the might of the Tathagata expounded it. As you described it, so should the Bodhisattva great being course in the perfection of wisdom. Epilogue. When this chapter of the perfection of wisdom had been taught by the Venerable Subhuti, the great Chili Cosmos shook in 6 ways, and the Lord smiled on that occasion. Subhuti, what, O Lord, is the cause? What the reason of this manifestation of a smile? The Lord, just as in this world system the Tathagata expounds the perfection of wisdom, so that the Tathagatas in all the 10 directions in incalculable and immeasurable world system also teach the perfection of wisdom to the Bodhisattvas, the great beings. When the Venerable Subhuti expounded this perfection of wisdom, 12 myriads of gods and men acquired through wisdom the passionate acceptance of dharmas which fail to be produced. And when the Buddhas and Lords and the world systems in the 10 directions all round taught this perfection of wisdom to the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, the hearts of countless beings were raised to full enlightenment. This is the end of the 21st chapter of the large Sutra on perfect wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram.